Hi, I'm Amy and welcome to A-Star Reads, and this is my January nonfiction review of The Art of Happiness by the Dalai Lama and Howard C. Cutler. I kind of wanted to start the year out in a different mode. I wanted to start out the year out happy and on a more positive note, because I feel like 2020, I definitely had good moments. And I mean, starting this channel was a fantastic accomplishment and something that's brought a lot of joy to my life. But there's been a lot of ways that I have focused more on the negative emotions and the negative things happening, and I wanted to change that in 2021. I wanted to at least change my own perspective, because I know that the only person that has control over my emotions and feelings is me. I thought this would be a great book to start the year off and see what kind of techniques I could learn to try and look at things more positively. So I was actually surprised that this book did not take the form that I was expecting it to. This is definitely a nonfiction philosophical book, and I kind of thought it would have more of a self-help sort of perspective, and it did have moments. I mean, it has meditations that you can perform in here, and there are definitely techniques that the Dalai Lama talks about that you can try and incorporate in your life, but it wasn't really a self-help book as much as I thought it would be. And so that's not necessarily a bad thing. It was just different than what I expected. And I also thought I would be learning about the art of happiness directly from the Dalai Lama and kind of learning more of his Buddhist philosophy. And it wasn't really that. It was really about this American psychiatrist named Howard C. Cutler, who was interviewing the Dalai Lama. And he did this intentionally so that he could take the knowledge that he received from the Dalai Lama and apply it in a way that people from Western cultures could find accessible and be able to use within their own life. Even if they are not Buddhist and do not participate in the Buddhist faith, they could take this information and be able to apply it to their life so that they feel more happiness and are able to work on, I don't want to say enlightenment because that's specific to Buddhism, but more work on feelings of improvement as a person, as an individual. So when we go into this, we are actually hearing a lot more from Howard C. Cutler than I ever imagined. I really didn't think it would be his voice as much as I thought it would be the Dalai Lama's. And you get both. You definitely get both because it is an interview. And what was interesting about this is that Howard comes into this with very specific ideas of what he is expecting from this interview and what he's kind of hoping the Dalai Lama will give him. And he finds as he's going through this that he's interviewing someone with their own agenda and their own ideas of what they want to be teaching and sharing. And so as he asks these very direct questions, he's finding that the Dalai Lama gives him these very general answers and keeps going over things that really he wants to discuss and not focus in on the things that Cutler is like trying to direct his questioning towards, which I thought was fascinating. And it definitely gives you this feeling occasionally that Howard Cutler is a bit annoying because you're like, you know, get over yourself, man. We want to hear what the Dalai Lama has to say. Why do you keep having to interject? It's not a bad thing, and he's really not that annoying. It's just that as you're reading, you're kind of like, wow, this guy is having a really hard time getting over his own ideas and his own concepts. You know, he has a very Western education in psychiatry, so he has very strong opinions on individual personality types and techniques that are used to overcome some of these different issues that people face on a daily basis. And the Dalai Lama's really much more broad in the way he looks at general well-being and mental health. He very much believes that he doesn't know what the 5 billion people, and this was written in 1998, so what the 5 billion people on this planet are going to think individually. All he can know is really what is innate to humankind and human nature. You know, he respects each and every person as a human being, and he can give guidance as to what might help you because of what he feels is innate in each and every one of us. And his main message is that he believes compassion is what leads to happiness, and that every single one of the humans on this planet is striving for happiness. I really enjoyed learning his perspective, and what was also interesting on that, which was provided by Howard Cutler, is that the Dalai Lama would talk about things that he believes to be truths or what he has learned about human psychology. And what's interesting about the Dalai Lama is that he definitely is a learned man. He has worked very hard to cultivate education. He's constantly trying to learn. He's reading constantly. He's learning from other people. He does not ever limit himself in life. He feels like even if he were to learn something that would completely change his opinion on Buddhism, but it was true and very valuable, and he could change his opinion because of what he's learned. So he's very open to education. He believes that that is the most important thing in life. To educate yourself is a path towards happiness. And he doesn't mean like education, like studying education. He means like just growth education. So anyways, to get back to what I was saying, the Dalai Lama would talk about these different ideas and beliefs that he has seen to be true over his lifetime of studying and taking, thousands and thousands of years of Buddhist thought and then combining it with everything he's learning along the way in his lifetime. And then Howard Cutler would come in and talk about Western studies within the scientific world that actually confirmed and validated a lot of the things the Dalai Lama would say. So for example, one of the things I enjoyed the most in this book was when the Dalai Lama was talking about our innate drive for happiness and how that is a fundamental basic need that we all have. He was able to liken it to an idea of health. When we are happy, our health improves. Our body is healthy. We do better things for ourselves. The fact that we are healthier when we are happy, to him, makes it seem like that would be a necessity of life. Whereas when we're feeling sad, when we're stressed, when we're doing all these things that are not making us feel good, our health declines and we actually feel worse and we live a less healthy life because we are living within this stressed situation or unhappy or anger. We're holding on to a lot of hatred. And then Howard Cutler would come in and would be like, and this can be backed by this study or this study. We've had scientists work on this concept of happiness, or this, they've looked at compassion for this. And then he would give a bit of a statistical analysis or just kind of discuss what the study had looked at. And I really enjoyed that back and forth because I felt like it would help someone from a Western culture to be able to see, okay, this is what the Dalai Lama is saying, and this is where we have looked at it from a different perspective, and it has validated it. However, my only issue with that was that there were no citations in the back. I felt like it was a little strange. Sometimes you'll find a citation section that's pretty minimal, and you're like, this is, a little disappointing, but this one had 0 citations. Granted, in the sections where he talks about these case studies, he does mention the doctor's name and the study that they worked on, what college they're from. But that one was a little strange to me. Over this whole book, he goes through different sections where he talks about compassion and how to cultivate compassion. He talks about negative thinking and how to work against negative thinking. And then he has a section on self-confidence and self-hatred. And finally, in the end, he talks about spirituality. And this was an interesting section because it was fascinating to see the perspective that the Dalai Lama has on religion. And I don't necessarily know that I always agreed with him, but I did enjoy reading about what his perspective was. So I did enjoy this book. It was a bit more surface level than I expected it to be. Kind of thought we would delve a lot deeper into some of these subjects, but it is a pretty short book. It goes very quickly. It's like a little over 300 pages and it's fast. You go through this book very quickly. However, I know that with this book, I will be thinking about it for a while. In fact, I've already discussed it with other friends and family talking about these concepts that I've read. So it's a book that will stick with you. It's a book that will make you think. And I really hope that I use some of these techniques and some of these things that stuck out to me in trying to work on my own level of happiness. Because there's no fix for everything, but there are ways to improve slowly on a day-to-day basis. I definitely will probably go and listen to some of his talks, or maybe even pick up 1 or 2 of the Dalai Lama's actual books, because he does have specific books that go over the Buddhist philosophy. And I feel like you could learn a lot from him because he's a very intelligent man and he is constantly trying to improve and work and build on himself, which is a quality that I greatly appreciate in a person. So I actually read the physical book as well as listening to it on audiobook, which was a very interesting experience because I actually feel that there were things in the book that weren't included on the audiobook. The audiobook feels a lot more like a philosophical journey where you're really listening to the Dalai Lama mostly. But in the book, it's more of this conversation between Cutler and the Dalai Lama, and you hear a lot more from Cutler's voice. So I think there were like little stories that were left out and some of the exchanges between the two that didn't really make it into the audiobook, and I could be wrong, but at least that's the perspective I got from listening to it and reading it. And I'm not gonna say whether or not one is better than the other. It's just a different learning experience. So if you're interested, I would recommend both. I think that they're both valuable. And if you've had any experience with the Dalai Lama, either reading this book or seeing one of his talks or anything like that, let me know in the comment section down below. I'd be curious what you have felt, because I would like to experience him. So if you like this video, click the like button and subscribe if you want to see more nonfiction, because next month I'll be talking about a ship. Completely different than this. Thank you so much for watching. See you later.